Well, what do we think of this specific angle of shot? It's a little bit different from what I normally do, but if you're a returning viewer, then you're probably used to some of my more flat on, straight on shots. However, today, if you are a new viewer, my name is Zach. I do camera and gear reviews. Normally I do microphones. However, today we're actually going to be talking about lights. While I don't have it sitting in front of me, I actually have it being used as my main key light right now. And I've actually been using it in the last couple of videos. I've been wanting to actually test out the light and see if I even liked it before I made this video, because I actually had to buy this one with my own money. Technically, it was a Black Friday early birthday present that my wife got me. She doesn't know that she bought it for me yet. However, she did. So if I get 2 gifts for my birthday, then I guess this is technically one of them. But actually, I was going to buy the SmallRig 220 Pro light, and I really had my heart set on that. I saw all the Facebook ads for it, and I was kind of sold on the idea of a very compact light that I could set up a V-mount on. And so I ordered it actually, and then it never came. I waited about a week and a half before I actually had to cancel my order. And I really wanted SmallRig to tell me why the light never shipped, and I just didn't get an answer. I just said, hey, look, I wanna go ahead and cancel my order. It's not shipped. And they were like, great. And that was it. They didn't say, oh, we're so sorry, the light's shipping out soon. They were just like, cool. Because in my email, I was like, where is it? But that's besides the point. Today, I want to talk about the Amaran 200XS. The 200XS is different from the 200D, which is a daylight only light. The X stands for bicolor, which means that it is a color changing light, not RGB, but it actually goes from really cool to really warm. And what that means is it actually ranges all the way from 2700 Kelvin all the way to 6500 Kelvin, which short term means really warm to really blue, orange, blue. You guys get the idea, right? I thought for a while that I was just going to buy the D version of this light, the daylight version. And honestly, it wasn't that much more expensive to go with the bicolor. It gives me a little bit more versatility. I wanna say this light retails for about $350. And I wanna say I bought it for about $280 when it was on sale for Black Friday. So a substantial savings in my opinion. However, it's not the cheapest light on the market by any means. There are other brands on the market like Godox, there's SmallRig, obviously. There are a bunch of other ones that I'm sure I'm missing. For instance, I have a light from somewhere called Mount Dog that's actually my original light, and that's what I used to light all my videos up until now. That was a $50 light and it was good enough. However, talking on that light for just a second more, that light is actually what inspired me to buy this light, because that light had a bunch of issues with it. And while it was great for a first-time new creator like myself, it wasn't good long-term because I couldn't adjust what the actual brightness was. And I also couldn't tell what the color temperature was in particular. Those are 2 really big issues, especially if you are setting up your camera and you're trying to use more manual settings than auto settings like I am. In this specific case, I have my camera set to about 5000 Kelvin and my light is set to 4300 Kelvin. With the old Mount Dog light, I actually couldn't tell what it was set up to. So if I was filming, I had to film in auto. And then I noticed at times if I was moving around in my room, depending on if the light was bouncing off me and then reflecting into the camera would actually change my lighting. And so it was a little weird. Sometimes in some of my older videos, I would notice the color fluctuate a little bit as I moved in the studio or as I held up something like a lens cap, for instance. This light, however, is known for its color accuracy, which means I can safely set my camera to 5000 Kelvin and then set my light to whatever, and I don't have to worry about those little fluctuations like I used to with my old setup. But while I can't really talk about what all of these specs mean, I have put them up on the screen for your review. The higher the score, the more accurate it is. The lower the score, the less accurate it is. If you guys want to read those for a little bit longer, feel free to pause the video and we're gonna jump right back into it. Now I'm gonna say something a little controversial and I'm actually going to call this a cheap light. Now, I say cheap because Amaran is actually Aperture's budget line for lighting. And I know that $350 is not cheap by any means. And actually, it kind of goes against everything that I really set out for with this channel. Amaran is the budget setup. And with that, it's reflected in the build quality, because the build quality of this specific light is actually predominantly plastic. And there are certain parts of the light that are metal, specifically the part that holds it to the stud for mounting, as well as some of the internals. The important parts are metal. However, the exterior construction is made of like a high quality plastic. It doesn't feel cheap to the touch, but it is where they do start to save some of their money. Now, in my specific case, how I have the light mounted is actually pretty important as to why I went with this specific light, because I needed something that was lightweight. Hence why I was looking at the SmallRig 220 Pro. That one was super lightweight, super compact, and so is this one. It's actually even lighter than the SmallRig light would have been. And the reason for that is because I'm actually mounting it on its side, which is not something that's recommended by any of the companies. Most of them say to either mount the light on top of a light stand or on the bottom in worst case scenario. In my case, I'm mounting on the side, which kind of goes against the manufacturer's recommendations. And I know that going into that, I'm actually documenting probably a reason for them to deny any future warranty claims if they do see this video for some reason. However, that's what works best in my case. I actually have a Very pole and I use that to, kind of create tension from the floor to the ceiling, and then attach that. I have a super clamp, which I believe is from Newer. I'm not entirely sure. I bought like 4 different clamps because I use these also at work for our studio setup. And 2 of the clamps were from one company, 2 of the clamps were from another company. And actually these 2 clamps didn't fit my Godox light, so I just ended up repurposing them for this. Where the light does not show that it's cheap is actually with the amount of output that it can produce though, because it can actually emit up to 45,000 lux. Actually, it's over 45,000 lux at 3.3 feet. I can sit here all day long and pretend that I know exactly what that means. I can tell you that I think I know what lux means, and I'll be honest, I really don't. I know that that really means that it's really, really bright. And you can see that because it's actually sitting here hitting the left side of my face, which is probably the right side for you guys, and it's really bright. And funny enough, this light is actually only set to 25% brightness at this time because I set it up for 100% just to see what it would look like, and it is way too bright for my room, for my face, for everything. So 25% is more than enough, which is probably like a 50 watt light. I could have gotten away with like 100 by and called it a day. Now, one particular reason that I also really wanted to go with this light, and specifically a mid-range light, is because it uses a standard Bowens mount. So in this specific case, I'm actually using a modifier by Newer, and it fits on my Amaran light. Now, those are 2 completely different companies. They're not affiliated with each other from what I understand. However, it fits because this is a semi-universal adapter. It is not universal in the sense that every light on the market will have the ability to use the Bowens mount, because not all of them do. There are some high-end lights that use their own proprietary mount because the manufacturers want you to use their modifiers because maybe they're recommended. Like, I know specifically in the instructions, they tell you not to use any other modifiers than like the Amaran SE Dome, or maybe it's the Dome Light. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to look at that in a second and see, but it is one of those things where they recommend using their modifier because obviously that prompts you to buy more from them. Now in this case, because it is a universal mount, I can buy any modifier. So in this case, I'm just using the Newer, I wanna say it's the 85 centimeter, which is like 33.5 inches. It's perfect for me. It's got 2 different diffusers. It's got an internal diffuser and an outer diffuser. It's actually, the outer diffuser is the one that you can see. The inner one is something that it's optional, you can put up, and it has an optional grid, which I did set up at one point just to test out. And while it works in very limited situations, because it is very directional with your light, I don't really like it because it doesn't light my face completely. It lights like the side of it, but not really the front of it. And so I took it off. It works for some cases. I actually used it with my work setup for a long time, and then I actually just removed it because we switched up how we actually have our live stream studio done. But I don't know, in this specific case, it really works for me. Now, on the back of the light, there are 2 knobs as well as a screen, and that is how you adjust everything. You can adjust the different scenes, you can adjust the brightness, the color temperature, all the fun things that you'd ever want with this light. However, because of how I have it mounted, I actually can't use it. Instead, I have to use the included Sidus Link app, which I actually really like. It is a very good app. And so with the app, I can actually control my light via Bluetooth. And so it has a range of about 300 feet, which is more than I would ever need. This room is 12 by 12. So even if I stand in that corner, if I stand out in the hallway this way, if I do anything else, I can still access this light without issues. It's funny because when my wife sits in here, because this is a dual use studio, there are times where I will just turn the light on and off and I'll be in the kitchen and she's like, what the heck is going on? Well, I'm not gonna go crazy in depth with the app. I do wanna show a few of the basic features. So obviously I click here, I go into the light, and that is going to show you your basic controls. So at the top, it shows you how bright your light is. So I can turn it down, I can turn it back up. I'm probably gonna set it around 25 because that's really where I like to keep it. I actually have my light set to 4800 Kelvin earlier. I think I had it set to 4300 Kelvin. So this is just to show you what the difference is. I actually really like 4300, but I think I set it to 4800 for some reason. I can turn it all the way up to like 6500 Kelvin. So it's really blue in here now. And then I can turn it all the way down to 27. This is a very yellow light. I don't really like it when it's set to that. So yeah, that 4,800 range is good enough for me. Another thing with the app is there are different effects. So I can sit down here, I can do paparazzi, I can do fireworks, faulty bulb. I can set it to a bunch of different things. I actually don't want the light to do that right now because if I do, it's going to like probably set off a bunch of people. Whoops. But yeah, that's the gist of it. That is how the app works. And honestly, it's pretty good. They have the Sidus Link app. They have another app called the Amaran Light app. I just use the Sidus Link. It's more than efficient. It works for my specific use. I would love to be able to use the screen on the back of the light itself, but there's really no reason for me, especially when I have access to a really good app like theirs. Being that I've only owned the light for a couple of weeks now, I can't really tell you if it's going to stand the test of time. There are thousands upon thousands of videos of this light as well as other lights from Amaran that are on YouTube, and actually that is what helped me decide to buy this light for myself. I could probably say that the light will hold up for a good long time. I would say it's gonna last you at least several years. However, there are little things and little inconsistencies about the light that kind of just drives me nuts in really weird ways. The first thing that I want to talk about is kind of circling back to the build quality. While I said everything was mostly plastic with the important stuff made of metal, the one thing they didn't make out of metal is actually the handle that you twist to lock the light down onto the mounting stud. Now, this isn't that big of a deal, especially if you are like me and you just set up the light. This light will never move, or at least it won't move until tomorrow. If I were to move this multiple times, I'm taking it off and putting it on a different lighting stance. What concerns me is that tightening handle, the adjustment handle, whatever you want to call it. If you turn it one too many times, I do have that fear that it might snap clean off because it's made of plastic. It kind of feels a little brittle. I've seen other people online, unfortunately, break theirs off. Most of the time when you read through the comments, it's because someone was just way over tightening it, or they were running a softbox on it that was way too heavy for what the light could actually handle. In this specific case, this modifier is actually pretty light. I don't foresee it ever causing an issue. It being mounted on its side could pose future problems for me down the road, so I will keep you guys up to date in the event that something ever does happen. Knock on wood that it never does, because that would really suck. However, while that isn't the only thing that concerns me, the second thing is maybe a little bit less important, and that is actually the power adapter. Now, to fit everything in such a small housing, they did have to cut a little bit of a corner, and there's a massive adapter for the power. But I've noticed that it's really bulky, and if I was using this light on the go and I wanted to be like a mobile film creator, content creator, something, it's kind of a tripping hazard. So I actually have it set up on my desk. I'm having it sit behind, I have like a little black toolbox and it just sits there. I don't notice it's there because I have all the wires, you know, run pretty decent. That is something that, I don't know, it just kind of annoys me. I want to see if I would ever run into issues with that. So if I ever do take this light down, maybe I'm moving rooms or moving homes at some point, then that could pose a future issue. Overall though, it's a really good light, especially in my opinion. I could have probably gotten away with just using a 100-watt light and called it a day, because again, using this at 25% is kind of a waste of its full potential. Granted, I've already bought it. I'm not sending it back. I really enjoy this light because it does give me room to grow and improve, especially if I change studios down the road. Maybe I get a bigger room. Maybe I end up taking over the master bedroom instead of the guest bedroom, and you know, that would be really dumb. I don't know why I suggested that. This is a good light. Eventually, what I do want to do is I want to replace my original, my OG, the Mount Dog softbox light, which I'm actually using to light the room behind me. The only thing I don't like about this position is now I can see the doors more. So that does kind of bug me, but I do have a lot of light here. So you can read the pictures, you can see the couch, you can see a lot of stuff, but I don't like that light. I feel like it's really cheap. I would love to be able to adjust the color temperature a little bit better. So I'm actually looking to get maybe an Amaran 100 or maybe get the 60. I don't know which one would pair better with like a lantern softbox modifier. That way I can like very evenly light the room, give it a little bit more ambiance. If you guys actually have a suggestion as to whether or not I should get a 100 or a 60, drop it in the comments below. Maybe I should just get another 200, or maybe I should take this 200 and light up the room with it and get like 100 as my key light. Maybe that would be a much better use case of this light, but you guys tell me. Anyways, if you do like this video, be sure to hit the like button. Don't hit it too hard because I don't want you to break your screen, because then you can't watch my next video, which you would only know about if you actually click the subscribe button. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.